everyone. I'm Angela Kirkian, Director of Education at PPA, and today we're going to talk about ideas and inspiration and where ideas come from. And to do that, who better than Scott Detweiler? Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to chat with you. You know, every time I chat with you, I learn something new. You have such a creative mind, and I thought this would be such a fun segment to talk about. You know, we've been stuck at home for a little bit, and would love to just hear what you're working on and what's happening in your world right now.
Well, obviously not doing a lot of photography, or at least portrait-wise. I do some product work, and I think product work helped me in a very unexpected way. First of all, it's kind of boring, but because it's boring, you can put your headphones on, you can relax, and then you can take your time to get frustrated with the lighting. And that, I think, helped me level up substantially when it came to portrait lighting, because lighting a product is a lot harder than lighting other things. So it was one of those like really weird challenges that kind of popped up that I did not expect. So yeah, that was a very, I want to call it eye-opening experience. And so since then, I still have some product that I shoot intermittently, but a lot of those companies are also kind of closed down during this time. So I've been kind of focusing on those things, like where are some areas that I've always wanted to pick up. And so there's a couple pieces of software that I wanted to kind of master and, or at least increase my ability in, and to see how that can affect my photography in general. So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Yeah, you play a lot, and I love that. I love whenever I talk to you, I feel like you're always learning something new. You're one of those lifelong learners. But as we're kind of getting started here, one of the things I would love for you to share with our audience is your album that did really, really well in print competition, photographic competition this year. It was a GIA winner, correct? Grand Imaging Award winner. Your album, My Dolls. Can you share that with our group?
Sure.
Awesome. You can just share your screen. I'm excited to get to see this. It's great.
So it started out as kind of a, I don't know, let's call it a brainstorming thing. It's like, can I do this? And there's actually another project I'm working on now that's another one of those questions I'm asking that's very different from the dolls, but also pretty disturbing. So it's a little, just a little unsettling. So the goal was to kind of create something cute. I know there's some other people out there who do dolls, and they're fabulous, and they're, I love them and I love looking at them, but they're a little darker than I tend to like. Although I do love darker photography and darker themes, I kind of wanted something that was playful yet disturbing. So I just started messing in Photoshop and playing around until I came up with something that seems to be repeatable. And I still haven't figured out exactly what makes the best doll. Like, I'll start with a picture and I'll try and I'll fail. And there's just some pictures I'm like, oh, this will make a great doll. And then I'm like, wrong. And they look like an alien if you do it wrong. You're like, yeah, no one's going to really love that image. So I basically start with a photo and then work from it. So for example, this one here, and their image is over here, so I keep looking over there. This here, the martini glass was not there, for example. That's actually a picture of a little Playmobil martini glass. And then I just took it in and added in because it looks very fake. It looks very plasticky, which kind of helps sell the whole doll feel.
Yeah.
So each one has got its own little thing.
I love these stories. Where did this idea or concept first come from? Why did you start creating these images to begin with?
You know, I don't even recall. I do have a couple of ways that I brainstorm ideas. And this one kind of struck me because it seemed to be something I could continue to do. Most of the time when I have an idea, it's for a single image. Like I want to do a specific kind of body paint, for example, or a specific story to tell. And you can't really do that on a bunch of different people. You do it on one and you've done that. Now you can move on. This one was one of those that kind of seemed like you could go other places with it. And I haven't done a lot of those. This is a new concept to me. Like I have the new idea I'm working on, which I still haven't done any images of it, but I don't want to ruin it in case it does work out. Because I don't know yet. Like I don't know, ask me in a year and we'll see if it turned out or not. But they're just one of those things. I started kind of pondering just different. Humans are very good at identifying other humans, and we look at a person and we can tell, right away, Typically you look at a person and go, you know, this person's attractive or unattractive, and you know, people are attracted to different things, and it's one of those things that makes, you know, humans human. And as you have like a fake, like a Barbie, for example, humans aren't typically messed up about Barbies. Like Barbies are fine, Barbies aren't scary, but as Barbies start to get more realistic, your comfort level starts to plummet, and that's called the uncanny valley. It's as you approach human-like, you get very uncomfortable until it's almost perfectly human, and then you're happy again. So that uncanny valley is actually the original name of this whole album, because they all live there. They all live in that, I'm kind of wigged out, but they're cute. So they live in the uncanny valley, but they're not at the very bottom, like some of those animatronic, you know, robot-y things that are just creepy, you know. So that kind of came from there, like what lives in the uncanny valley, and
Gotcha.
but not so far down that you show to people and they, you know, wigged out. I actually have a whole series that I won't share. I share around Halloween, where I have taken several pictures of the same face, but featured different elements of the face as one image, and they're very disturbing. In fact, my wife told me that if I share it on Halloween next year, she's going to block me. So if you go back in my timeline on Facebook around Halloween, you'll find them. And there's a series of those, but those are not print competition worthy because they're just
Right.
messed up.
Yeah.
So this was kind of a derivative of that, in that it isn't as far down. So each one's, I think one of the secrets to it is to have solid styling. You know, just take a standard portrait works. I mean, I have a couple dolls in here that are like that, that are, you know, like this one is just, you know, it's very nice. I have this giant flower in the studio, and
Yeah.
we just put it in her hands and so, okay, here you go. And it works, you know, it's fine, but just a person standing there is harder to make it tell a story, even if it is, you know, twisted into something like this. I have a Nicole Moen who makes ceramic corsets, gave me a couple of corsets. So there's a few of these you'll see.
Oh, wow.
Very
Yeah.
cold piece of art. But you know, the just, I love this Molly here, her look of frustration. She's all like be grumpy, makes the doll interesting. You know, it's not just her sitting on a bed. So the expressions all help. And then of course I had to go and turn my daughter into one. So my daughter Sophia, who is not 11 as she looks like in the image, you know, just playing around with different looks and different feels. This one's a little on the dark side, and I started to kind of go down that exploring that a bit. But there's several artists who are amazing at the darker dolls, and I was like, you know what, it's starting to kind of mingle in that, and I want to be unique. So let's not go down that path so much, but you know, let's, you know, whatever kind of works.
These are fun to look at.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
all
wow.
unique.
They're great
And
little
they're
stories.
highly detailed. I mean, there's I have no idea how to pan in this piece of software. So one of the things I
Oh,
could have
wow.
done is removed all the skin texturing, for example, and just kind of said this is a, you know, it's a doll, so it would have a plasticky kind of skin, which probably would have been more realistic. But I don't know that I was going for that. I wanted something that felt a little bit more real. So the skin texture on all the dolls is still there. So I went through and did the actual retouching. So they have proper pores and everything. So I just retouched the skin, but it's the well, the lighting, and then combined with obviously magnification of certain elements makes it doll-like.
What gives you, where do you get these ideas for the outfits, the styling, the backgrounds, the
So
story?
in truth, these are all images that I've shot in the past. Some are many years old. This picture here, I think, is from 2011.
Wow.
And I work with this model, and I have several images from that day. And I'll go back through my archive drives on a fairly regular process, and look through and see, you know, are there other images in these sets? I'm not your typical photographer in that a model gets 50 images from a day. They'll get 2 or 3 highly polished images, and the rest are going to be either similar or not as good. And to me, like, I don't need to deliver 50. I need to deliver 2 or 3 that are just wow factor.
So
But
back
go
up
ahead.
just a quick second. So you've been photographing models for a long time. Tell me about what a day like that looks like for you, or prepping for a day like that. And then is this something that you're doing for any specific job, or is it just for fun?
No, so originally I had a friend, Michael Lapointe, who had a studio that was actually old Horlick malted milk factories, an abandoned factory in Racine, Wisconsin. It's, you know, hundreds of thousands of square feet of abandoned factory. And he had a photo studio there. And I had just gotten into photography. I met him at a Civil War reenactment, and we got to know each other. And I was like, you know, I kind of do this. And he showed me some of his work. I'm like, this is amazing. He goes, you should come and shoot models. So I was like, okay. So learning lighting was the first thing. So I've been an artist for a while. You know, I can draw and I can light in my head, but making the studio strobe do what was in my head was a really big area of frustration. It's like, I know what I want, but the thing won't work. And so he would say, just bring your lights down. And, you know, so I bought some lights, and I go to the studio, and I'd spend almost every weekend just shooting what I could and changing each variable to try and understand that when I changed this was the effect. And after a while, I kind of came up with my 4 rules of lighting and say, this is what I'm going to do. And when I try and light it in my head first and then try and make it repeatable, once you can do that, I felt that I kind of leveled up, and I was able to walk into a situation where I didn't need to prep. So I just take my lights. I don't need to know about anything about the day, and just go. And then what you see, you can say, oh, I really love this piece of wall. Or like, we do a lot of stuff in the abandoned Shawshank prison every year. I'll see like this jail cell or this scene, and I'll see the model, and I'm like, okay, let's tell a story. Let's do this. And then I just get my lights, set them up to light what I think I see in my head, and hope I get it. And the hope has turned into a lot more. I get it pretty often, but it may not be everything I want it to be, because it needs love later. Not because it could have changed it in camera, but because there were elements that didn't exist, or that I didn't have with me, or props that just aren't available. So that's where the Photoshop side of this comes into. So I still do a lot of art on these, but I try and get everything right in camera as much as possible. I'm a lighting fanatic. You know, I want all my settings to be correct. I want that thing to be as perfect as it can be within reason. You know, if there's something that I need to move and it's just going to take too much effort to move, versus taking it out in Photoshop, well, then, you know, Photoshop gets it. But that's not typically my mode of operation. I'd rather just fix it first, and then the post-production becomes a joy and not a tedious task.
Yeah, but you have an idea of what you're going for, obviously, with the styling and, you know, and play that you're doing.
Well, great teamwork. I mean, you have people who design these outfits and do the styling and the hair and the makeup. We have a whole team whenever we do something. It's rare that I don't have someone doing hair and makeup at any shoot, because I don't want to do it in post. And I think that, first of all, from a client perspective, they love that level of attention.
Yeah.
So, you know, that adds the extra. I'm not just a person who has a camera and is going to take your senior portraits for $50. You know, we're having hair and makeup done. We're making an event out of it, an experience out of it. And a lot of that came from watching how the models react to these same days. They love that level of attention. And my wife has been to the studio a couple of times, and she said once she, you know, getting her hair done or makeup done, someone's doing her nails, she goes, if you were just feeding me grapes, this would be like perfect. So you try and give everyone that same experience. And I learned a lot about that by working with the models, because a lot of the models aren't professionals per se. They're just people who wanted their picture taken. You know, that's really the definition of a model. And that's kind of where this started. And luckily, you know, I have people like Haley and Rachel and some of these people that have appeared in a lot of my imagery because they're muses to me. They're people that just sing to my creative side. And there's other beautiful women I know who don't. They're pretty, and that's great, but I'm not really kind of out to take pictures of pretty women. I want to take a more creative image. So
you do a lot. You're very thoughtful in your process. I feel like, you know, you put a lot of energy and effort into your sessions before you get started.
If I can, yeah. But I also don't mind kind of MacGyvering it on the spot, you know, especially if you're in an abandoned building that maybe, you know, you're not supposed to be in, and you need to kind of think quickly. Those are kind of the most interesting imagery, because you have to ponder it and then you have to light it quickly. And I think being able to take what's in your head and convert it to actual lighting is really kind of a cool skill. And it's not one that I have mastered. It's something I've come a long way with. And we do this. I talk about this at imaging. Last time I spoke, I call it the one and done challenge, which is we do it in the studio. You pay $100. You put $100 down, and behind the door, you don't know what it'll be. It could be a body painted model. It could be, you know, you have no idea. And you'll have someone who will help you, but they won't do anything unless they're told to do it. and they're not going to talk to you. And you got 15 minutes to create one image. And it's not just like one image that, it's the best of it. It's the first click of your shutter.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's no light testing. If your trigger doesn't go off, you get a mulligan, but you don't get a light testing shot. You use a meter and you use the light modifier you think will work best for you. And there's plenty of strobes. There's like 10 strobes in that room and every modifier imaginable. And then some that you can bend to your will. But that challenge, and we do it every time we shoot, even if we don't pay for money,
Right.
It has really helped me graduate to, I need the idea first, and lighting it has become more of a secondary challenge, because it's not, if I have the equipment with me, I can typically pull what I need to do off eventually. But at the end of the day, we all get together and we'll invite someone into the studio and they'll pick the best image and that person gets the pile of cash. So there's a motivator to learn it. But when you're on location with a client, for example, a senior client, you're in a park and you have your strobe on a stick and you walk over and you say, okay, pose against this building or whatever you're trying to do. And then you put your light where you want to put it and you take the picture and you show the mom in the back of the camera and you've nailed it on the first shot. Your level of expertise as a photographer in their eyes is just skyrocketed compared to someone who takes a picture, chimps, changes something, takes another picture, chimps. I mean, there's a huge difference. And again, it's subtle, but I think that differentiation helps you justify a better price.
I like hearing how you use what you do for play and for your own personal creativity, and how that actually does leak into your business, because it sounds like you have a better understanding, one, of light, but also of people and what they want, right?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't for everybody, but it's one of those things that I think attracts a certain type of client. I've had clients who've come to me, looks like that's the end, who've liked the imagery from my regular account and say, do you do seniors? Well, yeah, absolutely. But let's not just do a picture of a kid holding a baseball. Let's do something, outlandishly cool and kind of take it to the next level. And that's the kind of client I'm looking for. The smiling senior, like, not really my client.
Yeah. Well, So do your clients see this work? Is this work that they're seeing
out there? Yeah, I mean, I don't hide it. I do have a separate site for all my branding. So obviously, Boudoir brand has its own place that it hides, and the body paint and everything is on my main site, but it's on another portfolio. And there's a separate site for high school seniors and families. And I think most people are smart enough to figure out, well, it's a high school senior. He's not going to shoot it like this lingerie thing.
Right.
There's a certain look for a certain market. But I have had now commissions for dolls. I've had clients come to me and said, my 14-year-old daughter wants to be a doll. I'm like, okay. And
that's cool.
It's turned into a thing. It's not a huge thing, but it's something different. And again, that market differentiation is what we're all striving to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Were you surprised when this was announced as the Grand Imaging Award winner?
Yes. I have to thank Chris Duncan too, because he kind of said, you should make this an album. It never occurred to me to make it an album. I didn't really know a lot about albums. I just thought they were for seniors and weddings. And, I don't really shoot a ton of that kind of stuff that I think is competition worthy. And, the thing about competitions is I'm a huge proponent of them, because you're always going to get a yes from somebody who, it's a blurry picture of their kid. It's still a picture of their kid. They're going to love it. So competition is the only way to kind of get valuable feedback. And as I kept working it through the food chain, he's like, you should make this an album. And then of course he was a little upset because, he's like, push my album down because you scored higher. But, it was a really kind of cool concept to make in an album. And I'd never thought of that before. But, having enough of the work was the problem, and going back and trying to create 2 or 3 more dolls to go on the album, then deciding which ones work with the flow of the album instead of just having a bunch of pictures that have a thing. They have to have a flow. And so that was a really an interesting challenge as well.
Oh, it's a beautiful book. Now, I'm sure people are looking at this image and they're thinking, she doesn't look like a doll.
No. So I thought I would share a little overshare here. I thought I would show you a little bit about what goes in behind a doll. So this is a doll of my friend Rachel, who's an amazing muse. This is the picture we took, and this is in the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. This is one of those big boys who I think the train people will know. Just the sister of this train just went around the nation. So just kind of playing with the concept. And I took a bunch of pictures from this series, never the intention of making them a doll that I recall. But I got home and I'm looking through and I'm like, this is a great picture. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. The light, it's a split light. It's almost a Rembrandt because it's got that little bit of light there that I have to fix in post. Uh, and it's fine and it's interesting, but I'm like, ooh, I have enough headroom here that I could really kind of take this next level. So I just made her a doll. So I ran filter, render, make doll. And people are going to be like, what? There's a, no, I'm totally kidding.
That's a filter?
Filter, render, make doll? Really? It's that easy? Yes, it's that easy. And then I did a little bit of liquify to kind of make, to kind of balance it out because it isn't a perfect process. Each doll is different, and that's why you can't really automate this.
Yeah.
And then just kind of taking, adding highlights and dodging and burning, and then, kind of other little corrections hither and yon to, even little touches to the train. There's so much to image competition that you normally would kind of skip, like maybe forget to retouch the skin on the legs or the arms, or look at the background and go, wow, there's this really bright spot back here. He should probably handle that. What about the concrete in the front? So you can see I added like a texture to kind of bring the light of that down so that it doesn't draw the eye, and then bringing down these other highlights, and just overall playing with what I've learned from failing in image competitions to say, what additional benefits can that skill offer me here to look at this picture a little better? So each image in its own should be competition worthy in my mind. And then when you put them all in an album, obviously it hopefully would do well. But that's kind of how this became a doll. So now when you go back and you look at the original image, it's like, wow, it looks so weird, doesn't it? And it was shot with a really wide angle lens. And that obviously helped this because now it's disproportionate when you look at it. Now her legs are closer to the camera and they're bigger, but it really made for a fine doll. So there you go. That's what I'd share a little bit.
That's fun. Yeah, that's fun to watch. Is that the last one in the book?
Yeah, I only have that one.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love looking through all of your images and your Instagram and all of that. It's really, really fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
So going back to our original topic and just talking about what inspires you. Like I said, every time I talk to you, I learn something new. You're always doing something, and it's not always photography related. I mean, I feel like you're just one of those people who's always wanting to make things.
Yeah. So during this break, there's a couple pieces of software I've owned, but I wanted to master. And one of those is ZBrush. That. So ZBrush is a virtual clay modeling application. And so sculpture is something I wanted to get into. I can draw, but I don't know how to sculpt. So I made this. So this is it's clay. So you basically just model in clay and then make. So this is a board game piece for a game called Gloomhaven. And then I just sculpted this onto this virtual clay piece here. And I could have done it with real clay. I have real clay at my desk. I can keep little pieces of it and play with them and make things, but this was a lot less mess. And then you can 3D print them. And that's what I did. So I 3D printed them and I made a bunch of these little pieces for the board game.
I love that. What I love about this is when I first started in photography, my mentor told me, he said, if you want to be a really great photographer, study everything but. And I thought, what? Because I was young, I was still in college. And it's so true, just playing, just learning new things. I love that you want to get into sculpting. What other creative outlets do you have, Scott?
Well, where this is going though is this is going to eventually become like headdresses and dresses for other concepts I have that now I can take them and I can 3D print them. So all I have to do is design them in here.
Oh, wow.
And I can take them into my photography through this other venue, you should say. So by the way, this is probably the most frustrating application in the history of the world. Like all the menus flow vertically. Zooming is Alt, right click, let off of Alt, and then you can zoom. It's like this. It's the most frustrating piece of software ever written, but it's the industry standard. So if you enjoy the Marvel movies, Thanos and Groot and the dragons in Game of Thrones are all done in this piece of software. This is the industry standard for movie making.
Oh, wow.
stuff, and then you rig it and then animate it. Also video games. This is where all the video game characters come from. It's the standard. So this is a piece of software I really wanted to learn, not for just that, but then, you know, my thought is eventually I have some ideas for much larger scenes. And I'm working on, again, I want to give away what I want to do for print competition, but I'm working on entire environments that don't really exist, but yet I have to make them, but I'm not handy. Like, watch me hold a hammer is laughably bad. So this is my ability to do that, to light it, and then incorporate actual photography into that. Because I feel like just making a whole image out of
interesting.
I say three-dimensional assets is not really fair, and it's not photography anymore. So I want that fine line of these to be ancillary elements, not the primary element. But
right.
You know.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to look forward to seeing what you have next for us.
Yeah, me too. I have no idea what's going to look like.
And so we were talking when we were just sharing last week and kind of catching up, we were talking about books or things that inspire you. And you know, I'm always curious what's going on inside your brain, and how do you come up with these things?
Well, obviously, you know, a lot of people would say movies, and I think movies are okay. I like movies for lighting. Like, I'll be watching a show, like the show Supernatural, for example. You know, like, it's an okay show, and I don't understand how many seasons it could run with the writing, but the lighting in the show is amazing. And I'd look at it and I'm like, wow, I love the way this is lit. And I'll be pausing it and looking at the lighting, going, wow, I really like this creativity of how that was lit. So I'm more taking notes on that from most movies. For other stuff, I have these books, and I have a few of them. These are the Spectrum books, and they're giant coffee table books, and they're full of the most amazing art. Every spread is just,
oh wow,
incredible. I think my goal someday to be in one of these books would be kind of a nice. But every page has just so much good stuff. And, you know, in this digital world, you know, there's some Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts and Reddit, or trying to think, ArtStation is another really good one, as is the old DeviantArt, which I've had a DeviantArt account since I think like 2008. Also amazing places to find inspiration. And it's not that you're trying to copy what you find, but you just say, wow, I really like the feel or mood or the environment of this image, and I want to make an image that has the same mood and feel, but you're not, you know, trying to reproduce a piece of art. I think my architecture professor, I was in architecture classes for a while, told me, you know, nothing new has been created in a long time. It's always people being inspired by other people, and you just can't figure out where their inspiration came from. And I don't know if I agree with him 100%, but it was an interesting thought. He actually had one other thing that he did to me, which is kind of cruel at the time. Our first art project was a sepia of a Corinthian column. So it was a 24 by 36 watercolor paper. So I had to stretch the watercolor paper on a board and then use sepia ink or sepia watercolor and do this Corinthian column. And I spent, must have been a long weekend working on that. And I took it into him, and it was matted and the whole presentation. And he took it and he looked at it and goes, wow, this is amazing. So this looks like an etching. It's so well done. And I can't believe this is your first watercolor. And I don't think I had a watercolor like a watercolor person does. I watercolor more like a pencil person would. So it was very neat.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have that freedom that I think a watercolor needs to have. Anyway, so he's looking at it. He's like, oh, this is really amazing. And I'm like, thanks. And he takes a ballpoint pen and he writes A+ right on the white part of the canvas, like next to the column. And I'm sitting there going, how am I going to get rid of that? How am I going to edit that out? Like, will whiteout work? Can I like an eraser do something? As I'm pondering this, I hear and I look down, and he's ripped it in half and put a staple through my hand, handed to me, and he goes, this is just great work. And I'm like, shell shocked. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, everything you do for this class will be for me. I'm the client, and you cannot be married to your work in any way.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
everything you do for me will be destroyed. It will be burned. We'll rip them apart. We'll beat it with baseball bats. We're going to do all this stuff to it. But if you shirk at all in what you do, you'll get an HC, which is a horse crap. You didn't have Fs, you had A, B, and HC. So you learn to kind of divorce yourself mentally from what you're doing if it's for a client versus your own personal work, which is why you'll see I don't enter client work in print competition because I really don't have control over the styling. Yeah, I do, but mom has more because mom wants the pictures, right? Maybe the senior has this wonderful serious face, but mom doesn't want serious face. Mom wants smiling face. I'm like, okay, here's your smiling face. I wish I had this, you know. And then maybe you can talk him into another shoot at some point. But that was a wonderful lesson, and I hated the guy for it. But now I'm so much more bulletproof than most people. You know, like you get somebody will just, you know, rant at you for work that you did for a client. You're like, that's what the client wanted. I'm okay with that, right? So, yeah, that was a big lesson.
So entering the international photographic competition is a little less harsh than.
Well, I'm the client, right? I get to make the decision, and if it fails, that's my fault. That's on me. But at least at that point, it was my job, my direction, my thought that went into it. Yes, I have other people on my team who also I want to be free. You know, the person who's doing the styling, the hair, and they're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "I kind of want something long, but you have fun. You're the artist here too. Let's make it a creative, you know, a joint venture." And that's worked out really well. Great group of people.
How did you meet the people that you collaborate with?
Just word of mouth. I mean, models will say, "Hey, if you ever need a hairstylist," a friend of mine is a hairstylist. And I've known some people now who are just amazing in the industry. You know, people who work directly for some of the larger hair care manufacturers now are good friends of mine. And they'll say, "Hey, here's a person who's looking to kind of come up through this field, and their portfolio is client material, and they need something a lot more refreshing for their portfolio. Would you like to work with them on a creative project?" Like,
yes, I would.
As a matter of fact, I would. And then we do the same thing for designers. You know, a lot of fashion designers have no money. They put all their money into their dresses and their fabric, and they hope to sell them, but they have this closets and closets full of stuff. And if you know any designers, you know they have a lot of fabrics and a lot of clothing and design, but hasn't sold. So I said, "Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't you put some dresses in my studio, and I'll put them on clients and or personal projects." And, you know, because a high school senior girl who comes in and gets to wear an $8,000 dress is kind of a perk. And they'll take those images and I'll say, "You can use those images for your portfolio in exchange for letting me use them on my clients." So we all win. They get portfolio material. I get amazing dresses from my seniors or personal projects. And so I don't have to worry so much about trying to find these elegant gowns or renting elegant gowns in most situations.
I love that. You know, you're so active. You're always doing stuff. You're always creating something. And I think that's, if I would have anybody take anything away from just knowing you or meeting you just now on this segment, is do that. Like, be busy, right? Like, do things, meet people, take photographs.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch TV, for example. I don't have any TV that I watch. I do play some video games, but I kind of stopped doing that as well now because I want to focus on learning these other pieces of software and new techniques and trying new things. And the TV is kind of like you just want to unplug. I get that, but I can also unplug in front of an easel, you know, and try and create some art. And yeah, it's gonna look terrible. Like, my wife actually used to be a figure model for a drawing class that I took years and years ago. And I joke about the fact that she actually married me, even though I made her look like an alien day and day and day. I mean, they were horrible. But by the end of that semester, my people didn't look so bad. Like, they still lived in the Uncanny Valley, but they were much better than they were when I went in. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't practice. And it's like anything, you know, I could probably learn to swing a hammer and build stuff in the studio. But it's practice, you know, and you just pick your battles, right?
You've taken a lot of art classes. Like, when I think to you.
Every photographer, Richard Sturdivant and I were having a conversation on this, where, you know, he's an artist with a ton of, you know, history in the art industry. In fact, I even have like a piece of mastic for my artboard that has Richard Sturdivant quote on it, and I was teasing you about the fact that's still on there. There's so much you can learn that photographers don't learn about. We learn about the settings of our camera. We learn about, do we have a Pro Photo light or a Godox light, or, you know, this softbox. We don't learn all these other things about anatomy and how to pose a person. You know, we have our posers, and some of these people are like, David Beckham's like this, you know, God level poser of people. But there's all this other areas that you get into outside into the fine art area, how to compose a scene. We don't learn that. We don't learn about so many other things. So I actually taken several painting classes at our local Michael's craft store, for example. They have like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting class. They have a bunch of tulips or flowers or orchids or whatever. We went in and painted those, and I took my daughter with me, and I learned a ton, and I made an ugly thing, and then we went again, and it wasn't quite so ugly the next time, and it was a practice. So I bought an easel and I bought some paints, and every so often when I want to relax, I get that out and try and make something that isn't as ugly as the last one I made. And so there's so much art stuff to be learned there, that we as photographers are never exposed to. Like, we don't have the opportunity to learn it, or we don't know that we're supposed to learn it. And I think that's why my pieces tend to have kind of a little more of a fine art feel, is because I've learned from some of those things that now are kind of second nature when I look at an image.
I love that. That's so encouraging, I think, to people to just get out there and try something new.
Absolutely.
As we're wrapping this up, do you have any other pieces of advice as people
I have this great little thing, and I was going to share this, but I don't know if you can buy them anymore. But it's called a Reckless deck, and it's basically a deck full of random cards, and each card has something written on it. So the challenge is to take a card out and say, it'll say like ball gown or princess dress. Okay, well, let's work with that one. Let's go draw something here. Shotgun. Okay. And then bandage or injuries. So then run with that. Like, what can you do? And I have ones for worlds as well, to just kind of describe the world. But my daughter also does this little challenge with us on weekends. We'll sit around. She has this dictionary, an old dictionary, and we'll rip pages out of it. And then you have to use a marker and you black out all the words except for the ones you want to be a poem. So you're making, she calls it blackout poetry. It's like redacted poetry. And that's another one of those weird ways to wrap your head around something like, can I make a poem on this page? And she'll get this page and goes, oh, this is the best page ever for this, and you have to come up with a theme, and you have to understand where you're going to go so that it can actually work as a poem by the time you get to the end of the page. Just little creative things like that, ways to stretch your brain that will come back when you're in a photography situation. Your brain will be a little bit bendier than maybe it would have been before, and you think of something outside the box. And again, differentiation in this market is the key to success, right? If we all shoot the same smiling senior, everybody has the same picture, it starts to kind of be a challenge to market yourself.
I like that. So we want bendier brains. Is that what you're saying?
Bendier brains. Absolutely.
I appreciate you so much, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing your dolls album with us. It's
Absolutely.
fun to see that, and just a little insight into how you come up with your creative ideas and inspiration. We really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next segment. Thanks, everyone.